Chapter 953. She pulled him aside and asked where Tanggua had gone. Finally, she saw Tanggua watching Jing Chang's sword dance in the Imperial Garden. Only then did she breathe a sigh of relief. A smile appeared in her eyes. She's still here. That's good. Your Majesty, do you want to go over? No, don't disturb her. On the second day of Tang Nuyu's ascension, she habitually went to the Imperial Garden to take a look after the court. However, she didn't see anyone familiar. She couldn't help but ask why Tanggua wasn't here today. The palace maid replied in a low voice, "This servant doesn't know." Tang Nuyu felt uneasy. She hurriedly went to Tanggua's chambers to look for her. When she arrived at the doors of the chambers, she saw the chief steward coming out with red eyes. Her heart skipped a beat. "Where's my sister?" "Master, she's gone." The chief steward finally couldn't hold back his tears. He couldn't control them at all. They all thought that she was joking. They didn't expect that she would leave without any hesitation. She really did arrange everything and leave without hesitation. Tang Nuyu only felt dizzy. She rushed in and saw Jing Qing standing guard beside Tanggua. She saw Tanggua lying there. She was completely silent. All the imperial physicians in the imperial hospital were around her. Only low sighs could be heard. Tang Nuyu's tears fell. She also thought it was a joke. The Empress wanted to slack off and play. She didn't expect that when she said she didn't have much time left, she really didn't have much time left. She felt like she was dreaming. He was still alive yesterday, so how could he be gone today? Announce it to the world. Tang Nuyu said sadly. She stood aside, not knowing what to say. Jing Chang's expression was very indifferent. She couldn't tell if he was sad or not. Tang Nuyu guessed that he must be sad. "Did she have anything to say to me?" Tang Nuyu asked. Jing Qing raised his head and lightly said, "I told you to properly govern the West Saint Nation and guard against the Qi Kingdom. It's best if you send people to guard the border between the West Saint Nation and the Qi Kingdom to prevent war." Since she said so, something must have happened. Tang Nuyu smiled bitterly. Who was the one who was reborn? Anything else? Jing Qing shook his head faintly. No. Tang Nuyu stood there for a while and decided to leave. She still had a lot of things to do and had no time to be sad. Since he said that he wanted her to govern the West Saint Nation well, then she would use this principle to govern the West Saint Nation. Even if she couldn't compare to the other party, she would make sure that the West Saint Nation was stable. Wait a minute. What else? Jing Qing raised his head and smiled. She and I are inseparable. I hope to be buried with her in the future. It's still early to talk about these things. It won't be too late in the future, Tang Nuyu said. Jing Qing smiled. I'm just saying this in advance. I'll have to trouble your Majesty to order the people who bury her to save a place for me, in case I can't fit in when the time comes. Tang Nuyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She just nodded in agreement. She thought that Jing Qing really wanted to remind her to have someone save a place for him. She didn't expect to hear the news of Jing Chang's death again when she turned to leave. She hurried back and saw Jing Qing lying peacefully beside Tanggua. She felt dizzy. She really didn't know what to do with these two stubborn people. I'm the one who owes you. Tang Nuyu said sadly. All right. I'll bury you together, okay? When she turned around, she couldn't help but wipe away her tears with her sleeve. When she came out, she saw Dan Gu inside. Jing Qing died for his sister. Chapter 954. Dan Gu was startled and came up to hug Tang Nuyu. Your Majesty, don't be sad. How can I not be sad? I only have one sister. Even if she was not the original Moon King, after so many years of cooperation, there were still some feelings. In order to not let her have any worries, everything was properly arranged for her before her death. She really owed her. The Xian, an empress, and her imperial husband were buried together. The affection between them was lamented by countless people. No wonder the Xian, an empress, loved this man so much when she was alive. It was because he loved her so much. Tang Nuyu arranged the funeral arrangements for the two of them properly. From the coffin to the tomb ceiling, she personally supervised them. Su Qing, who was far away in the Qi kingdom, ascended the throne. Not long after his ascension, he went to court and discussed the matter of attacking the West Saint Empire. Of course, his decision attracted countless people's rebuttal. They thought that the current West Saint Empire was strong and prosperous, and the Qi kingdom did not have conditions far superior to the West Saint Empire. Starting a war would cost lives and money, and the two countries did not have any special conflicts. Su Qing said in public, "How can there be no conflicts? I recently learned that the Moon King of the West Saint Empire actually imprisoned the sixth prince in the Spirit Temple." The ministers looked at each other and still did not agree. Su Qing was a little annoyed, but he knew that this matter could not be rushed. He dismissed the court and prepared to think of a way to make the two countries fight. He had not thought of how to make the two countries fight and get the ministers to agree to fight the West Saint Empire when the news of the Xian and Empress' death finally came. At this time, half a month had passed since the death of the Xian and Empress. This was the result of riding a fast horse. It would take at least 2 months to reach the West Saint Empire. Who is the Xian and Empress? Su Qing asked with a wooden expression. When did the West Saint Empire have a Xian and Empress? His hands trembled as he pressed them on the dragon table and stared at the two words behind Xian and Tanggua. Reporting to your majesty, when the Xian and Empress was on the throne, she passed the throne to the former Moon King. On the second day of the Moon King's ascension, she died. It is said that the Xian and Empress had expected that she would not live long, so she let the Moon King ascend the throne in advance to avoid trouble. How is that possible? How is that possible? Su Qing laughed and tore the letter. How is that possible? His eyes were red and his expression was ferocious. How could she have died? Ah, she was younger than me by a few years. She was still young. How could she have died? How could she? He hadn't attacked the West Saint Empire, he hadn't taken her back, he hadn't owned her, how could she die? The palace servant's face flushed red as Su Qing grabbed his neck. He quickly said, "Perhaps it's an old illness. Rumor has it that when the Xian and Empress was young, she fell off a cliff and lost her memory. Perhaps it's the after effects of this incident that caused her to not live long." Su Qing was stunned and let go of her hand. Chronic illness. He fell off the cliff. He sat down heavily on the dragon throne and stared blankly at a certain spot. His brain felt like it was about to explode. Seeing this, the servant hurriedly rushed out. His Majesty looked really scary. Fell off the cliff. Ha ha ha, so that's how it is. Su Qing raised her head again. Her face was already full of tears. He looked at the magnificent palace. After working hard for 20 years, what was it? He thought that when he ascended to a high position, he could use the power of a country to take away her country, so that she could only rely on him. She would only be his. The truth was, he was in a high position, but what he waited for was her death. Chapter 955. He had calculated countless times, but in the end, he did not calculate that she could not wait until then. If in the beginning, he had not calculated against her, then, would their endings be the same? If he was still Lord Su in the harem of the Xian and Empress, they should be safe and sound for the rest of their lives. She would not fall off the cliff, nor would she forget him, nor would she lose her life at such a young age. With his intelligence and wisdom, it was very easy for him to win her favor in the harem and stand out among the many lords. So, why did he choose such a difficult path when it was such a simple thing? Su Qing was at a loss. She suddenly remembered that he did not like her at first. He approached her to use her. It was because she was too good later that he was tempted. So, he was the one who was wrong at the beginning. There were no ifs in this world. The next day, Su Qing went to court and never mentioned the attack on the West Holy Empire again, which made the courtiers relieved. Not long after, Su Qing conferred the title of Crown Prince. Just when everyone thought that Su Qing was well behaved, he disappeared. He won't come back. Crown Prince, prepare to ascend the throne. Xiao Yun said. She looked into the distance and smiled bitterly. How can a person's heart be so hard? 20 years, isn't it enough? Later, Tang Nuyu heard that there was always a crazy person who sneaked into the imperial mausoleum. He was caught several times, but he did not repent. No matter how long he was locked up, he would still sneak into the imperial mausoleum when no one was paying attention. At first, she thought that this person was going to rob the tomb. Once, she accidentally bumped into him and saw that slightly familiar face. She suddenly realized that it was him. No wonder. Are you still going? Nan Yunchuan had been wiping those treasures for 10 years. Many things had been wiped as if they were oiled. I remember that you were locked up for half a year last time. This time, you will probably be locked up for a year. Su Qing smiled faintly. Go, why not? If they don't kill me, I will go. It doesn't matter how many years I am locked up. You are too stupid. Nan Yunchuan said. Su Qing asked, You are not stupid. The two looked at each other and lowered their heads at the same time. Yes, who was not crazy? Whoever fell in love with her would go crazy. Tanggua, shall I take you home? The boy in front of her was handsome. He was wearing a clean white shirt and had a faint smile on his face. It was easy for girls to have a good impression of him. No matter which girl it was, if he looked at her with such serious eyes and wanted to send her home, she probably wouldn't refuse. After all, the boy in front of her was not only the school hunk, but also a rich second-generation heir. Tanggua raised her head. She had a very beautiful face. She politely shook her head at the handsome boy and said, No, thank you. I ride a bike. I see. Zhuo Ran shrugged. Forget it then. Tanggua simply turned around. Behind her, Zhuo Ran looked at her back thoughtfully, and the corner of his mouth raised into a smile that was determined to win. There were rumors in the school that she was an untouchable flower. There were also many people who said that her private life was very messy. He wanted to see if she was truly pure and innocent, or if she was just pretending to be pure and innocent. This game was very interesting, wasn't it? The moment Tanggua turned around, she put away her smile. The clean and simple expression on her face became indifferent. Tongzi, where is my bike? She had just come over when she heard Zhuo Ran wanting to send her home. Chapter 956. Based on her intuition, she didn't think that Zhuo Ran really wanted to send her home. Instead, she felt that he was up to no good. Since she didn't have any memories, she could only refuse. The system reminded her that she had a bicycle, so she used this reason to refuse. Dear host, go to the left. Do you see that pink bicycle? Tanggua followed the system's instructions and quickly found her bicycle. She pushed the bicycle out of the school gate and asked the system to find her an ice cream shop. She parked the bicycle outside and walked into the shop. She ordered an ice cream and sat down in a corner. Receive the memories. She scooped a spoonful of ice cream and ate it. It was still so delicious. The relationships in this world were a little complicated. Her identity was a child of a single-parent family. At present, she lives with her mother, Su Meihui. For her future, Su Meihui moved from the original small county to this big city. The original owner is also very good and really got admitted to the best high school in the city. According to their plan, as long as she studied hard in this good high school, she would definitely be able to get into a good university in the future. In order to live a better life, the previous host would work part-time every day after school. She was pretty and the part-time job she chose was different from others. She was either a master of ceremonies or an attendant. Because of her hard work, she had a good life. Su Meihui also supported her daughter. She was able to live independently as long as it didn't affect her studies. Although the mother and daughter weren't rich, they had a good standard of living through their own hard work. Ever since she came to this high school, she was called the school belle. The girls looked at her face with envy and jealousy, while the boys looked at her face with infatuation. She had many pursuers, but because of Su Meihui's education, she never thought of talking about relationships in school. She didn't know when, but rumors started to spread in school that she was a kept woman and was sold. Otherwise, how could an ordinary single-parent family like her dress so well? It was because the previous host had the ability to earn money in high school and bought clothes, shoes, and beautiful bracelets that she couldn't afford at her age. She was criticized by many people. At first, she didn't care about it because no matter where she went, there would always be people talking about her. No matter how she explained, no one would believe her. Su Meihui had once told her to walk her own path and let others talk about it. She didn't need to care about those strange gazes. Until the appearance of a few rich second-generation heirs led to her tragedy. The names of these rich second generations were Zhuo Ran, Song Shou-chin, and Wei Liang. At first, Wei Liang failed to pursue the original owner of the body, so he came up with a brilliant idea. They didn't believe that the original owner was really pure. Money, status, there was always something that could move her. Her reason for rejecting him was always the same. Dating would affect her studies, so she would not date in high school. Therefore, even if money and status could not move her, they would think of other ways to move her. In the beginning, they pursued her in a normal way. Later, when they saw that she was unmoved, they thought of a method that they thought was very good. It was worth mentioning that there was another girl involved in the experiment. She was her classmate, Bai Fei. Chapter 957. Bai Fei was the female protagonist of this world. She was a girl from a poor family who studied very hard. She was a little timid and had low self-esteem. She was often bullied at school. She was very similar to the original host. She never fell in love when she was studying in high school. Bai Fei was not bad-looking. Many people pursued her, but she rejected them all because of her studies. One of the rich second generation who was interested in her was Song Shou-chin, one of the 3 rich second generations. Originally, only Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran were playing this game. When Wei Liang heard that Song Shou-chin was very interested in Bai Fei, he asked him to join and let them attack Bai Fei together. In any case, the two of them wouldn't do anything to Bai Fei. They just wanted to see if Bai Fei was worth Song Shou-chin's effort. Song Shou-chin thought for a while and agreed. The 3 of them spent a lot of time, but they could not move Tang Guo and Bai Fei. They were very annoyed. The wonderful idea they came up with was to let the 2 of them be criticized first, and then they would save the damsel in distress. They did not believe that they would not obey them. In the first semester of the 2nd year of high school, the original host's bad reputation had reached its peak. Not only the students in the class looked at her strangely, but the teacher was also very dissatisfied with her. Once, she was late. The teacher told her not to bring some bad atmosphere to the class. She was also told to dress more properly next time, so that she would not lead the students in the class astray. Such discriminatory words made the original host, who was in the whirlpool, unable to bear it. She did not know who she had offended. Now the whole school was talking about whether she was kept by an old man today and whose car would pick her up tomorrow. Because of these rumors, she did not even dare to do a part-time job. However, no matter what she did, everyone thought that she was kept by someone. No one doubted that it was false. She once proposed to transfer to another school, but Su Meihui was too persistent. She said that this school was the best. Now she was in the second year of high school. How could she transfer? In order not to worry Su Meihui, the original host did not tell her about her experience. Facing such a life every day, when she could not bear the pressure, Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang appeared. Both of them said that they believed in her. They believed that she was not like the rumors. Facing such sincere faces, the original host seemed to find someone she could trust. She didn't refuse to get close to them, but she still treated them as friends. Because she had become friends with the two of them, the number of people gossiping in front of her decreased significantly. With the two of them speaking up for her, her life became much better. Later on, the two of them started to pursue her. She was very conflicted. Now was the critical period of high school. She didn't want to fall in love. She was very grateful to the two of them for helping her. In a situation where there were countless rumors, they could still believe her. But she really didn't have that kind of feelings for them. The two of them had worked so hard for a semester and got such a result. How could they be satisfied? They didn't show it. Later on, they asked the original host to go out and play. The original host didn't think much about it and didn't expect it at all. It was also this time when she went out to play with the two of them without any preparation that some people took some photos. The photo wasn't explicit, but because of the angle, it looked very ambiguous. These photos were exposed on the campus forum, and the title was, "The Campus Belle is Kept by the Two Campus Hunks." Chapter 958. When the original owner saw the news, she went to the basketball court to find the two of them and asked them to prove her innocence. That day, they were just friends who met up. It wasn't like what was written under the photo, that she was their sugar baby. Moreover, she really didn't spend a single cent of their money. There were many people at the basketball court and she was easily noticed wherever she went. It was the same for Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang. The girls who watched them play basketball could line up to the school gate. She thought that the two of them would help her explain. Unexpectedly, Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang only smiled at her and said to the crowd, "Since everyone saw it, we won't hide it anymore." Wei Liang and I did keep her at the same time. Of course, Zhuo Ran said this to take revenge on the original owner for wasting his time. It wasn't what he wanted. He had never thought that this sentence would bring so much harm to the original owner. "Yeah, you might not know this, but when she was with us in bed, she wasn't as pure as she is now. Next time, if there's a chance, we'll definitely take some photos for you to admire." The original owner froze on the spot and looked at the two of them in disbelief. She begged them to tell the truth and help her prove that this wasn't true. But the two of them took out 2 stacks of money from their pockets and threw it in front of her. They said, "All right, it's just money. Buy what you like and we'll find you tonight." This sentence crushed the original owner's last hope. At that time, she felt abandoned by the whole world. She couldn't take the strange looks and disdainful looks from the people around her. This incident had a huge impact. The school thought that having such a girl in their school was a bad idea. Some parents who heard about this also asked the school to expel her. If she continued to stay in this school, they would transfer their children to another school. Of course, the school wouldn't bear such a huge pressure just because of one Tanghua. In the end, the original owner was expelled. When Su Meihui heard about it, she gave her a tight slap. She tried to explain to Su Meihui, but Su Meihui said, "I told you long ago that you're not allowed to get involved with those rich second-generation heirs. Why didn't you listen? Tell me, are you trying to get close to those rich second-generation heirs to live a good life? Do you think those people are good people?" Even though Su Meihui knew that she was innocent, she couldn't help but blame her. After scolding her, she still planned to transfer her to another school. However, she didn't expect that no one in the city would dare to accept her. Su Meihui loved her dearly after all. Whenever someone questioned her character, Su Meihui would explain that her daughter was not that kind of person and that it was those bad boys who framed her daughter. But no one believed them. Because of her, Su Meihui lost her job. After she found a new job, she saw with her own eyes someone trying to flirt with Su Meihui. The person even said that her daughter was not a decent person. She probably learned it from her mother and told her not to pretend to be pure. The host only felt that life was dark. She thought that she should do something. Thus, she went to look for Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang again to ask them to prove her innocence. Both of them were arrogant rich second-generation heirs. How could they be willing? In order to prank her, he even told the others that she had gone to look for them again. His original words were, "We've already lost interest in her, but we didn't expect her to be so shameless as to come to us and beg us to keep her. I really didn't expect her to be such a person." Chapter 959. The guards of the school looked at her with disdain, and those who had some thoughts looked at her with lustful eyes. No matter where she went, she would be talked about. Her mother, because she lost her peaceful life, but she couldn't do anything. But she still wanted to do something. Under the pressure of public opinion for a long time, she had a problem in her heart. With a depressed mood, she secretly climbed to the roof of the teaching building. This scene attracted everyone in the school. The people below all persuaded her to come down and think things through. Wasn't it just that people found out that she was a kept woman? It wasn't a big deal, those prostitutes were still alive. Even now, these people were still insulting her, but she didn't seem to care so much. She sat in the most dangerous position and said, "Ask Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang to come over." In the end, the two of them didn't come. When the two of them heard this, they only thought that she wanted to use this method to force them to explain. They didn't want to and just wanted to teach this woman a lesson. Seeing that the rescue team was about to arrive, Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang didn't come. In the end, she shouted, "Zhuo Ran, Wei Liang, you think this game is fun, right? Then I'll play with you again. Do you dare to play with your lives?" They all thought that she was joking, but they didn't expect her to jump as soon as she spoke. She fell to the ground with her head and died instantly. At that time, the people closest to her were Song Zhouqin and Bai Fei. Halfway through, Song Zhouqin saw Bai Fei's pitiful look, so he quit the game and carefully protected her. Seeing the original owner of the body covered in blood, he held Bai Fei's hand tightly and his whole body was trembling. "Fei Fei, fortunately." He whispered this sentence to Bai Fei, but Bai Fei didn't understand. Because he quit halfway and got together with Bai Fei didn't suffer so much criticism and stood by his side in one piece. If he did what Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran did, would Bai Fei have ended up like this? Thinking that Bai Fei might have suffered like this, he broke out in cold sweat. When Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang heard about this later, they didn't dare to believe it. Even if they regretted it later, they couldn't save the original owner of the body. Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang only regretted it, but they didn't receive any punishment. Su Meihui was in great pain because of her daughter's departure. Song Zhouqin was inspired by this incident and treated Bai Fei very well all his life. He had always regretted his original behavior. It could be said that in this world, the original owner of the body didn't have much of a relationship with the male and female lead. At most, it was because of her death that the male and female lead's relationship was never hindered. Tang Guo was a little dazed. Her mind cleared up and she looked at the lovely ice cream in front of her. She scooped it up and ate it spoon by spoon. The system was trembling at the side. It couldn't tell what its host was feeling right now. 10 minutes later, Tang Guo finished her ice cream and wiped her lips with a napkin. The ice cream is quite delicious. System, when they left the ice cream shop, Tang Guo bought another serving of ice cream. When she walked out of the ice cream shop, she looked at the busy streets and smiled. The game has just begun. It was time for her to reject Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran. The two arrogant rich second-generation heirs were probably discussing how to deal with her. However, since she was here this time, they shouldn't think about not paying any price. Chapter 960. Did you fail? Ha! Wei Liang saw Zhuo Ran enter the room alone and knew that he had failed in his pursuit of Tang Guo. Zhuo Ran found a seat and sat down. He lay on the sofa lazily and narrowed his eyes. His lips curled up. She's indeed the flower of the mountain. I spent half a month trying all kinds of methods. I gave her things but she didn't accept them. I sent her home but she didn't want to. I helped her queue for food but she said she didn't need it. I, Zhuo Ran, have never met such a difficult girl in my life. Wei Liang shook his head. I even spent a month and got nothing in the end. She didn't want anything. He touched his chin. I don't believe it. A girl of her age doesn't like luxury goods, expensive bags, jewelry, and doesn't want to compete with others. I feel that she really doesn't like these. Zhuo Ran hesitated and said, in the past half a month, I put all the things that girls like in front of her. She's really different from other girls. She didn't even look at them. I'm sure of that. No matter what, I don't believe that she doesn't have a weakness. Everyone has a weakness. There must be something that can move her. Maybe she knows our identity and thinks that we're teasing her. That's why she didn't accept these things. What do you mean? Wei Liang replied, I think that maybe when we were pursuing her, we weren't sincere. I feel that she's very guarded against us. Maybe that's why she doesn't dare to approach us. What if we use another method? There were a total of 4 people in the room. They were called the 4 school hunks by the high school and were also the 4 rich second-generation heirs. They were different from ordinary rich second-generation heirs. Other than their extraordinary identities, their grades were also super good. Among them, Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran had the best relationship. They had the same hobbies and were interested in some very special girls. What they liked to do the most was to tear apart the true faces of innocent girls and expose their vanity. The basic method was to use money to pursue the other party. They liked to see the other party be careful in front of them and try to please them. They also couldn't help but compare with others. To them, this was fun. After a while, when they lost interest, they would give the other party a sum of money. Under normal circumstances, these girls might be reluctant to break up. In the end, because their compensation was very good, they would agree to break up. Even after they had broken up, they would still view the two of them as male idols in their hearts. In the future, when she had a boyfriend, she couldn't help but compare the two of them in her heart, wondering if her boyfriend was too stingy. This was the purpose of the two of them. They liked to see these innocent faces turn greedy in the end. Perhaps this was a kind of bad taste they had. Among the other two, one of them was called Song Zhouqin. At this moment, he was also sitting aside and drinking. Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang found Song Zhouqin sitting next to each other. Wei Liang patted Song Zhoujin's shoulder and said, Zhoujin, why are you so depressed? This is not like you. Is there anything that can trouble you? I just remembered something. Zhuo Ran smiled faintly. Is it because of the little girl who talked to you last time? Usually, they would leave the tedious homework to their subordinates. There was no need to waste time on this. Unfortunately, there was a weirdo among them, and that was Chang Zhan. He insisted on spending time doing homework, especially math homework. He would even bring it with him every day. Forget it, forget it. If you don't want to, then forget it. We don't want to do homework. Zhuo Ran shook her head and waved her hand. Chapter 962. I think you guys should stop playing games. So far, I think that girl is not bad. Chang Zhan calmly analyzed, you guys have spent more than a month on her. She didn't accept anything from you guys, which proves that she is a good girl. Not every girl is as vain as you guys think. Hey, Chang Zhan, this is the first time you've said so much, Wei Liang said in surprise, you're so observant. Tell me, do you also like Tanghua? Chang Zhan, as long as you say that you like Tanghua, she will be your woman. We won't have any thoughts about her in the future. What do you think? Chang Zhan buried his head and continued to work on the exercise book. He ignored these boring people. Looking at the solved problems, he smiled. He had a natural fondness for math problems. If he didn't do math problems for a day, he would feel uncomfortable. This originated from the first day he came into contact with math. That night, he had a strange dream. In the dream, there was a very hazy figure. He couldn't see who she was, but he could see that every time she appeared, she was doing math problems. Okay, Wei Liang said as he looked at Chang Zhan's smiling face. He's immersed in it again. He probably wants to dream about his math goddess at night. This guy only has his math goddess in his heart. How could he be interested in other girls? The other two nodded in unison. When he was young, Chang Zhan didn't have such a calm side. He had a very good relationship with them, so he couldn't help but share with them that he would dream about a very beautiful girl doing math problems at night. At the time, they didn't believe it. Later, when Chang Zhan said it, they had to believe it. The three of them ignored Chang Zhan and sat together, whispering to each other to discuss how to complete the game. The next day, when Tanghua walked into class, she felt that her classmates were looking at her strangely. Most of them were filled with disdain. She carried her backpack, found her seat, and placed her books on the table expressionlessly. She accidentally dropped her pen on the ground. When she bent down to pick it up, she accidentally bumped into her desk mate. Her desk mate was a girl. She jumped up and looked at Tanghua angrily. What are you doing? Don't touch me, the girl said impatiently. Stay away from me. Tanghua picked up the pen and sat up. Her gaze fell on the other party. The girl sneered, why are you looking at me? I really didn't expect my desk mate to be such a person. You didn't admit it before, but yesterday, someone saw you being picked up by an old man in a luxury car. She's so pretty, and she's dressed well. Her bracelet is even branded. I heard that she's from a single-parent family. If she wasn't kept by someone, how could she live so well? Yeah, she never asks us out on the weekends. She leaves school right after school. She's probably busy with her guests. Also, although she didn't wear makeup when she came to school, her eyebrows were trimmed and she even wore earrings. One day, I even saw her wearing heavy makeup. I don't know what she was doing. The class was filled with whispers of discussion because someone had spread the news that Tanghua had been picked up by an old man in a luxury car yesterday. They already believed that Tanghua had been kept as a mistress. This was an undeniable fact. In addition, the other party had a bad reputation in the past. Chapter 963. As the saying went, there was no smoke without fire, and flies wouldn't bite a flawless egg. If there was really nothing wrong with her, then where did these rumors come from? There must be something wrong with her, that's why there were these rumors. After class, I will request to change seats with the teacher. I don't want to be your desk mate. The girl's name was Suji, and she was a good student with good grades. Her looks were average, and she had always been dissatisfied with Tanguo being her desk mate. There was no other reason. It was because Tanguo was too beautiful. Sitting next to her was like a green leaf that served as a foil for her. If Tanguo's grades were worse, Suji could still accept it. Unfortunately, she was good-looking and had good grades. Everything was perfect. Now that there was a rumor about Tanguo being a kept woman, she believed it without a doubt. She didn't want to sit next to such a desk mate. What if she implicated her? She still had to go to university, get a boyfriend, and get married in the future. If she got close to Tanguo, others might think that there was something wrong with her. I don't want to sit with her either. I don't want to either. Who wants to sit with her? Who knows how many people she has served and whether she has a disease? These words could be said to be very vicious. But this was the world that the original owner lived in. The original owner had already spent a year with such contempt and disdain. Although it wasn't as serious as today, it was almost the same. In the face of such rumors, the original owner was still able to study steadily and seriously. It had to be said that she had a strong mentality. She thought that she was doing right and that the rumors would stop with the wise. As long as she didn't care, these rumors would disperse. But she forgot that there were many good people in this world, but there were also many people with bad intentions. Tanguo glanced at the people who said that she was a kept woman. Most of them were girls. To be honest, the boys were more silent. Seeing her lonely and helpless appearance, they didn't show any disgust on their faces. Instead, some of them even tugged at the girls next to them. Tanguo was originally their goddess. Now that the goddess had fallen from the altar, she was still a goddess. Besides, other than those rumors, they didn't see Tanguo being a kept woman with their own eyes. So, they didn't hate Tanguo. But the girls in the class basically thought that Tanguo was a kept woman and slept with an old man. Why are you looking at me? If it weren't for the things you did, we wouldn't be looking at you like this. Now, everyone in school knows about our class. They say that there's a prostitute in our class. It really makes us lose face. Tanguo glanced at Suji and said, "Are you sure you saw me as a mistress? Do you have any photos? Is there any evidence? If you do, please take it out. If not, please shut up. You." It is illegal to slander others, spread rumors, and make false personal attacks on others. You are already over 16 years old and will soon be 18 years old. If I hear one more word of you insulting and slandering me, I will sue you. You think I'm afraid of you? Although she said that, Suji's arrogance was still weak. They were all students. When she heard that she would be sued, she was still a little afraid. If she was sued, her reputation would be ruined. Suji returned to her seat. Although she didn't want to get close to Tanguo, she didn't mention changing seats after class. She even glared at Tanguo in class. When she saw that Tanguo noticed, she quickly looked away. It's a good chance for me to lose weight. Malnutrition is bad for the body. Zhuoran continued to persuade him, "I know you have concerns. You're afraid that people will gossip if you eat our food. We failed in pursuing you, but can't we still be friends? That's right. Both Suoran and I admire your courage. Even after being criticized by them, you can still continue to study seriously. It gives me a feeling of innocence. Suoran also nodded. Actually, we just want to be friends with you. Also, I heard that your grades are pretty good. If we have time, we can study together. Oh, okay then. Let's eat together. Tanguo replied and smiled at the two of them. It had to be said that this face was really beautiful. Even people like Suoran and Wei Liang, who were used to seeing beautiful women, were moved when they saw her smile. Chapter 965. With the appearance of Suoran and Wei Liang, the discussions about Tanguo in the cafeteria disappeared. However, from the looks of disdain they gave her, she could tell that they were just not talking about her, but she didn't know what they were thinking. Other than the pitiful amount of rice on Tanguo's plate, the other two dishes she had ordered were also very small due to the discrimination of the cafeteria staff. One of the dishes was originally a meat dish, but because of the staff's special treatment, there were only 2 slices of meat in it. At Tanguo's age, she was still growing, so she usually didn't have enough to eat. Suoran and Wei Liang had been in the cafeteria the whole time. They had heard from others that the cafeteria staff were dissatisfied with Tanguo, so they gave her less food when they ordered for her. They went to order a few more sumptuous dishes and prepared to lend her a helping hand. After much persuasion, she finally agreed to eat with them. This was a good start. Moreover, they could clearly feel that the beautiful girl in front of them didn't seem to be so guarded against them and was much friendlier. However, she didn't seem to accept their kindness. She only buried her head and stared at her plate. She never took any food from their plates. They looked at each other helplessly. This was the first time they had met such a difficult girl. Tanguo finished her food quickly. The two of them didn't eat much. As for the 2 new dishes, they had prepared them for her. Seeing that she had finished eating, Wei Liang quickly said, "Are you done eating? I didn't see you touch anything." He glanced at the dishes in front of him. "Why don't you eat a little more? There's still a lot of time in the afternoon." "Yeah, since we're friends, there's nothing wrong with eating a little more." "Eat a little more." Tanguo smiled at the two of them. "No, thank you. I'm already full." She stood up. "I still have a part-time job after school. If I eat too much, I won't be able to wear those specific clothes." Of course, the two of them knew that she was working part-time. She wasn't a kept woman like the rumors said, and would occasionally shoot some print ads. As for the clothes and shoes that she was wearing, which were branded for students, they were actually worth 1,000 to 2,000 yuan. They weren't luxury goods. A necklace was basically 2,000 to 3,000 yuan. For a beautiful girl who worked in print advertising, etiquette, and MC, this amount of money was really something she could afford. As for the person who spread the rumor that she was a kept woman, they didn't know. What they were interested in was her as a person. Since she still had to work part-time and dress herself up so prettily when she was in high school, it was obvious that she was a vain girl deep down. What they wanted to see was her tearing off her disguise and revealing the same vain face as the other girls. "If that's the case, then we can't persuade you anymore." Suoran smiled faintly. "Where are you going to work after school? Are you going alone?" "I usually go there alone." Wei Liang quickly said, "Where is it? Let's see if it's on the way." "If it's on the way, you can hitch a ride with us. It's not far from here. I can just ride a bike." Tanguo looked at the two of them and said, "I'm going back to the classroom to do my homework. After all, I don't have much time in the afternoon." After saying goodbye to the two, she left the cafeteria. The two of them quickly stood up and followed behind her. Wei Liang said, "We're almost done eating. Let's go together." Chapter 966. The two of them sent Tanguo back to the classroom. The girl in front of them looked at them in confusion. Wei Liang said, "There are many people in the school who are not friendly to you. They don't dare to provoke us. Since we all know each other, we won't feel at ease if we don't send you back to the classroom. Thank you so much." The two of them looked at the girl's clean smile and were stunned for a moment. Ever since they noticed her, she rarely smiled. Because ever since she entered this high school, there had been countless rumors about her since the second semester of her first year of high school. Almost no one believed that she was innocent. Originally, there were a few girls who were close to her, but because of those groundless rumors, they gradually distanced themselves from her. It was believed that no one would smile at a group of people who were not friendly to her all day long because of those rumors. Because of those rumors, the girls were not willing to play with her, and she did not dare to get too close to the male students, lest worse rumors spread. In her heart, she had always wanted to endure these 3 years and get into a university that she and her mother were satisfied with. Then, she would leave this place and stay away from these unfriendly people. Tanguo entered the classroom. The students in the classroom only looked up and saw that it was Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran who sent her back to the classroom. They did not dare to say a word. These two rich second-generation heirs were not to be trifled with. They did not dare to say it out loud, but in their hearts, they were also thinking that she was indeed a pervert. She had actually hooked up with Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang at the same time. I feel that she is much friendlier to us. Today, when she talked to us, she would even smile. Wei Liang leaned against the wall of the toilet, smoking a cigarette and blowing out smoke rings. His eyes were slightly narrowed. This is a good sign. Your idea is really good. In the past, we spent so much effort to pursue her for so long, but she was always cold and indifferent. If she wasn't really a person, I would have thought that she was a machine. Wei Liang put out the cigarette butt. Continue in the afternoon. Of course. Now that rumors are everywhere, she will be attacked wherever she goes. Without our protection, she will be hurt. Zhuo Ran's tone was incomparably gentle, as if he was really thinking about the person he liked the most. I didn't expect her to fall for this trick. Wei Liang threw away the cigarette butt. If I had known, I would have used this trick from the very beginning. I wasted so much time. Tanguo, who was flipping through a book in the classroom, was communicating with the system. Give me a copy of the cafeteria surveillance camera. In the future, whenever I'm verbally attacked in school, give me a copy of it. All right, Madam Host. In fact, the system could not bear it any longer. It thought that after transmigrating to so many worlds, some people were already very annoying. He really didn't expect that the people here were the most annoying. It was almost as if he was a person filled with malice towards his host. He really admired his host. She was actually able to do things quietly. Her patience was really unparalleled. Also, help me post the scene of the employee getting food for me on the forum. The corners of Tanguo's lips curled up, and there was a hint of a smile in her beautiful eyes. If you do something wrong, you have to pay the price. No matter who I am, she's just an employee. No matter how much she hates me, she should at least give me enough food, not less. The system trembled and hurriedly replied. Yes, Madam Host is right. During the second class in the afternoon, there were reporters who came to the school to interview the school's cafeteria. Chapter 967. The person in charge of the cafeteria was dumbfounded. Their school was the best in the city and their cafeteria had strict hygiene standards. He could guarantee that there was absolutely no problem with the hygiene of the food. Hence, the person in charge was not afraid at all. He smiled and accepted the interview calmly. But when he was asked if his staff had given the students less food because of personal reasons, he was really dumbfounded. How could such a thing happen? The person in charge was shocked and quickly shook his head. I can guarantee that such a situation would never happen. The students are still growing. How could we do such a thing? There must be a mistake somewhere. The reporter said, in the afternoon, we saw a post about your school's cafeteria on the forum. There were even videos and pictures. At that time, we all thought that it was a setup and that the cafeteria staff would not do such a thing. The person in charge felt that something was wrong. He heard the reporter say, but not long after, we saw a video on the forum. Although both sides were pixelated, we are very sure that the scene in the video was your school's cafeteria. Moreover, that surveillance camera was the internal surveillance camera of your cafeteria. It even showed the time. The place that the reporter had chosen was the cafeteria. He even pointed at a window. According to the scene in the video, the incident should have happened at that place. Moreover, there are indeed surveillance cameras installed at the corresponding place. Afraid that the person in charge would not believe him, he even took out the video. After the person in charge saw it, his face stiffened. I will immediately investigate this matter. If there is really an employee who took revenge on the students because of personal reasons, we will definitely not tolerate such a person. We will give the appropriate punishment. Why don't we check the surveillance cameras on the spot? This kind of thing has a bad impact on your school. The sooner it is resolved, the sooner we can feel at ease. We all hope that we can give the children a stable learning environment and not be troubled by the reduction of the amount of food. I believe that many parents are also concerned about this matter. What else could the person in charge do? He could only check the surveillance camera. When he saw the scene in the surveillance camera, a beautiful girl stood at the front of the window for almost 15 minutes. The employee acted as if he did not see her and directly helped the students behind her to get food. His expression was getting worse and worse. Finally, there was no one behind the beautiful girl. Then, she impatiently helped herself to the food. Her attitude was especially unfriendly. In the end, she almost smashed the plate. The amount of food was exactly as shown in the video. There was no falsification at all. We will deal with this matter immediately. The reporter maintained a friendly smile and expressed that he could wait. He also wanted to interview the person in question as to why he would treat a student like this. In the end, the female employee was fired on the spot and could never be hired again. The reporter originally wanted to interview the other party, but the other party seemed to be very agitated and was unwilling to be interviewed. He even shouted some unpleasant words on the spot. The reporter sneered and wrote the truth in the article. If he dared to do such things, he shouldn't be afraid of being famous. This incident caused quite a stir. Almost everyone in the school knew about it in the time it took for class to be over. Those who were well informed all knew that the student whose food intake was reduced was Tanguy. Chapter 968. Tanguy's classmates were all sneaking glances at her. They saw that she was doing her homework seriously after class. The discussion became even quieter. They were afraid that Tanguy would really sue them like she had said in the morning. Even if she didn't get sued, it would be embarrassing if she was interviewed by reporters and reported on the news. Before school ended, Tanguy had already finished her homework. High school homework was really a piece of cake for her. When the system told her that the female employee had been fired, she just laughed. It's just the beginning. There's no evidence. Those who slander others for no reason must pay the price. Don't think that the law can't punish them just because they have a lot of people. If the law can't punish them, I will. What about Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang? What about Great Host? There's no hurry. I'm going to do a part-time job now. She smiled as she walked out of the classroom. I need to earn more money now. I need to earn some startup capital so that I can do what I'm going to do next. The system didn't quite understand what Great Host was going to do. Could it be that she was going to do something big? Yes, it must be. Every time Great Host didn't want to reveal something, she would do something big. When Tangguo walked out of the school gate, she wasn't surprised to see Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang waiting outside. The female employee who bullied you today has been fired. Wei Liang said immediately, there won't be such problems in the cafeteria in the future. Oh right, aren't you going to do a part-time job? Tangguo nodded. Yes, so I can't talk to you anymore. I have to go now so that I won't be late. After saying goodbye to the two of them, she got on her bicycle and rode in the direction of her part-time job. Are we following her? Zhuo Ran asked. Wei Liang laughed. Of course, we're following her. He said in a low voice, we just need to follow her silently. We don't have to do anything. We just need to help her when she needs it. But don't follow her too closely. If you follow her closely today, it'll show that you're worried about her. If you meet her again in the future, it'll be a chance encounter. Only a chance encounter will make people let down their guard. The two of them followed Tangguo to her part-time job. Today, she was a sales host in a shopping mall. Her main task was to arouse the emotions of the people present and promote their spending. Because she was pretty, had a good mouth, and her smile was pure and innocent. The onlookers unknowingly listened and believed that the things here could indeed be bought. She wasn't completely boasting when she said all this. It was because the goods here were really good that she dared to announce it so wantonly. The boss knew about her from his friends in the same industry and invited her over because the products were not bad but slightly expensive. They all thought that it would be easier to promote consumption if they invited a beautiful young lady who was good at talking and could let the people present try the goods on the spot. Sure enough, no matter who it was, when they saw such a beautiful girl, they were willing to come and watch. Not only did she have to promote her products, but she also had to perform 2 small shows, singing and so on. It was very easy to attract people, and unknowingly, people were drawn in. They were all willing to take a look at the products. As they looked at it, they felt that it was better than the brands they had bought before. The price was a little expensive, but the quality was good, and the young lady was working so hard, so they all paid for it. She was able to get a share of the profits from the things sold at the scene hosted by Tangguo. That was why the original owner had so much money to buy the things she wanted. Moreover, in this line of work, of course, she had to dress herself up beautifully. Chapter 969. If a merchant saw a sloppy girl wearing cheap and unfashionable clothes, why would they pay a high price to hire her? This was the first time Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran saw her doing a live promotion. It was also the first time they saw her working so hard to talk, smile, and communicate with the people around her. She didn't look so cold. Instead, when she smiled, she looked very friendly. The people around her weren't fools. They were all smart adults. They wouldn't buy such expensive goods just because she sang well. It could only be said that her existence was to make these people willing to understand the value of the goods and pay for them. It had to be said that she was indeed full of charm as she stood in the middle of the stage. She was like a different person compared to the old beauty in school. Tangguo was done, but the two of them were still immersed in the atmosphere she created for a minute. When they came back to their senses, they looked at each other and waited at the side in silence. She wasn't like this in school, Wei Liang muttered. That's strange. He ignored the feeling of his heart beating violently because of her stirring up his emotions. Zhuo Ran didn't say anything. His gaze was fixed in a certain direction. When Tangguo came out after changing, he walked up to her before Wei Liang. With one hand in his trouser pocket, he smiled faintly and said, "Tanguo, you're amazing. Those people didn't want to buy before, but after hearing what you said, they couldn't help but buy it." At this moment, the boss of the goods came out and said to Tanguo with a smile, "Miss Tang, you're amazing." He gave her a thumbs up and said, "You're really an amazing young lady. I've been worrying about these goods. I really made the right decision to hire you. That's because the goods here are good, President Chin. If the goods here aren't good, no matter how much I said, they wouldn't buy it." Tanguo returned a smile and said, "Now that these goods have a good reputation, I believe that President Chen's business will become more and more prosperous without the need for publicity. You really know how to talk." President Chen took out a red packet and handed it to Tanguo. Tanguo didn't reject it and thanked him. President Chen was a busy man. After bidding farewell to her, he went to deal with other matters. Wei Liang and Suo Ran followed Tanguo out of the mall. Seeing that her smile had not disappeared, Wei Liang could not help but ask, "Are you really so happy because you've made money?" "That's right. Through your own efforts, you've obtained what you want and the recognition of many people. Shouldn't you be happy?" Suo Ran asked curiously, "How much did you earn today?" "The commission from selling those goods should be around 20,000 yuan. My luck is not bad today. There are many people buying the goods." The two of them looked at each other. Was it that profitable? Although this amount of money was nothing in their eyes, it was really impressive for a high school student. However, he remembered that there were indeed many people who bought those things just now. Some of them even called their relatives to order. Because there was an event today, the price was much lower. The commission was about 20,000 yuan, which was really not bad. Chief Chen also gave me a red packet of 5,000 yuan. Fortunately, the reward was 3,000 yuan, so the reward is not bad. The two of them looked at each other. So, in just 3 hours, she had earned close to 30,000 yuan, which was quite impressive. Actually, such a part-time job didn't happen every day. Sometimes, it might not even happen once in a few months. Chapter 970. Because she was a high school student, she would only work part-time once or twice a week. She could not earn tens of thousands every time. This time, it was purely because the product was expensive. The more people who bought it, the higher the commission. Also, this Mr. Chen was very generous. Under normal circumstances, she should be able to earn about 2,000 to 5,000 yuan from doing such a promotion. The boss would usually give her 1,000 yuan for her hard work. As for red packets, some bosses would give her, while others would not. "You've waited for so long. Let me treat you to something." Tanguo waved the red packet in her hand. Her smile was still so clean. "What do you want to eat?" Suo Ran and Wei Liang were stunned. This was the first time a girl wanted to treat them to something after earning money. "It's not easy for you to earn money. It's better not to. Didn't you want to be friends with me? It won't cost much to eat something small. Although I can't make a lot of money, it's not a problem to earn some pocket money. Tell me, what do you want to eat? It's my treat today." The two of them seemed to be infected by her lively appearance and subconsciously agreed. They thought that perhaps this was a good way to get closer to her. "We can't think of anything to eat. Why don't you decide?" "We'll eat together," Suo Ran replied with a smile. Tanguo thought for a moment and said, "Then, how about barbecue? You've waited for so long. You must be hungry. I especially like spicy food. Do you like it?" "Of course." Of course, the two of them expressed their interest and agreed. As long as they could spend more time with her, it would be good. Today was Friday. Their schedule was loose to begin with. Their family was basically in a free-range state. Tangwa had already called her mother and said that today was Friday. She was going to do a part-time job and would be home later. Now that she had to have supper with her friends, it would take some time. She chose a barbecue restaurant and brought 2 rich second-generation heirs to eat barbecue. She would probably be the only one. The restaurant was very clean, and the dishes inside looked good. Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang looked and were satisfied. It was not a high-end place. At least it looked clean and pleasing to the eye. They felt more relaxed. Next, the 3 of them ate barbecue, drank drinks, and chatted. They seemed to have gotten closer. It was their first time eating barbecue in such a small shop at this time. The barbecue tasted good. While they were eating, they didn't forget to observe the girl sitting opposite them. Seeing her eating with relish and smiling, he smiled as well. He suddenly felt that the food in front of him was really delicious, and his appetite was stimulated. After that, they said that they would send Tangwa home. It was almost 10 o'clock and it was not safe for her to be alone. This time, she did not refuse. After watching Tangwa go upstairs, the 2 of them sat back in the car and remained silent for a while. Wei Liang touched his slightly swollen lips, which were stung by the chili. He chuckled. This is the first time I've been treated to a meal by a girl, and it's barbecue. It's a little spicy, but it tastes pretty good. Zhuo Ran also took out her phone and glanced at his slightly red lips. But it's really too spicy. Next time, I must ask the boss to put less spice. The 2 of them suddenly looked at each other and paused for a moment before Wei Liang said, "She didn't accept anything from us, but she actually treated us to barbecue." Chapter 971. I feel like I'm going to freeload. Zhuo Ran frowned. Then, he thought of something and his brows relaxed. But she doesn't refuse to take our car anymore. So, we've achieved our goal today and are closer to her? Wei Liang asked. Zhuo Ran nodded. You can say that. A smile appeared on his face. I believe that she will trust us soon. We're the only 2 people in the school who stand by her side. She'll only trust us, right? Wei Liang's eyes lit up. Then, we'll start to pursue her. I don't believe that she won't reveal her true colors to us. She's working so hard to earn so much money in one go. Isn't it to satisfy her vanity? Yes, those bosses think that she's good-looking and attractive. She even offers such a high price, so she's very clear about her advantages. The 2 of them analyzed all the way home, completely ignoring how touched they were by that pure smile. They still didn't want to believe that this kind of girl didn't love vanity. One day, they would expose her true colors and she would become like all other girls. Tangwa returned home. Su Meihui was in the living room. Seeing her return, she smiled. Xiaogua, you're back. Yes, Mom. Tangwa returned a smile. The boss today was very generous. He gave me a red packet of 5,000 yuan. The commission I get from selling the goods is about 20,000 yuan. Hearing this, Su Meihui smiled. Baby, you're amazing. It's getting late. Go wash up. Tomorrow is Saturday. You can have a good rest. Okay. Su Meihui would never stop her daughter from pursuing what she wanted. As long as it wasn't evil, she was completely supportive of part-time jobs like this. She could earn money and train her abilities. She hoped that her daughter could be a self-reliant and independent person. She wanted her daughter to see society early. She didn't want her daughter to be like her when she was young. She was too inexperienced and was cheated by others, almost ruining her entire life. She was now a department manager in a company. Her salary was actually not low. She wasn't a rich person, but it was enough for her and her daughter to live. In order to provide a good living environment for her daughter, when she first moved here, other than doing her own job, she would also take on some other jobs to do. In order to have a safe place to live, she took a loan to buy a house. With her ability, it was not a problem for her to pay the mortgage. However, in order to maintain their standard of living, they had to work harder than before. At that time, Tangua had the idea of working part-time to earn pocket money. With her appearance and amazing eloquence, she was actually very successful. During high school, she had promised Su Meihui that she would only take on 2 part-time jobs a week. Su Meihui was surprised by her daughter's ability and did not stop her. She was very happy to see such a scene. It was also because of Su Meihui's open-mindedness that even though Tang Guo was slandered in school, she was not defeated. Because her mother was a very strong person, she also wanted to be a strong person. She didn't know who her father was since she was a child, but from her mother's words, she knew that her father must be an extraordinary man who had deceived Su Meihui. Su Meihui had reminded her that she was not allowed to be deceived by boys. She was also not allowed to date before she went to university. She was not allowed to take advantage of others, and she was not allowed to interact with rich second-generation heirs. Chapter 972. Su Meihui wouldn't touch her daughter's money. Girls all had things they wanted to buy. As long as it was earned with their own ability, she wouldn't ask how Tangua spent it. However, there was one thing she couldn't accept from boys or spend their money. Although Tangua didn't know why, she had always followed these rules. Away from school, Tangua's life was actually very quiet. They lived in a high-end neighborhood. She only saw her neighbors a few times a year. Sometimes, they might not even know each other after living together for a few years. The pace of life of the people living in the high-end residential area was much faster. They basically did not have the time to know who their neighbors were. They did not want to talk about other people's rights and wrongs. If they had the time, they might as well think about how to earn money and improve their living standards. After washing up, Tangguo lay on the bed and asked the system, "Is there anyone in the group?" "Dear host, there are people." Every time she arrived in a new world, Tangguo would greet the people in the group and tell them about her experience in that world. The people in the group were already used to her experience. They were only amazed by her life. Tangguo called out in the group. As expected, many people popped up. Among them, the most enthusiastic were Zi Yun, Qi Xiao, and Mo Yuntian. Tangguo briefly explained the events of this world to the few people. After the people in the group finished reading, they all sighed with all kinds of emotions. "Qi Xiao, I know some people are bad, but I didn't expect them to be this bad." "Zi Yun, but these people should be taught a lesson. Who told them to mess with our girl?" Mo Yuntian, yeah. Whoever messes with our girl is unlucky." The others in the group were speechless when they saw the 3 girls spoiling their girl. With Tangguo's appearance, the group became much livelier. As usual, Tangguo shared her food with them. After everyone was full, she sent a message, "Brother Zi Yun, I want to ask you for some pipe dream." "No problem," Zi Yun replied straightforwardly. "I already have an upgraded version of a pipe dream. There's a dream in a day, a dream in a year, and a dream every night. Sister, what kind do you want?" When Tangguo heard the upgraded version, her eyes lit up. When she heard the word nightly dream, she asked, "Nightly dream is?" "This version is currently the most advanced version. You will have the same dream every night. Unless the person who drugged them is willing to help them get rid of it, they will be troubled for the rest of their lives." Tangguo continued to ask, "I like nightmares. Brother Ziyun, I want more." This time, the range is bigger. She narrowed her eyes. "Don't you like to spread rumors?" Right now, she wanted to give them a dream every night, so that they would be haunted by nightmares every night. Of course, now was not the time. Ziyun understands Tangua's meaning and simply says, "How about I make it into a potion for you and set up a restriction? Anyone who dares to spread rumors will have nightmares every night after being drenched in this rain." What Ziyun loved the most was to study all kinds of unorthodox methods of pills. A simple pill would be turned into all kinds of tricks by him. Now, he was doing very well in the celestial realm. In the beginning, many people thought that he was only good at pill refinement and was not very strong, so they forced him to refine pills. They hired a few pill refiners to watch over him, but they didn't expect that they would all fall for his trick. From then on, they didn't dare to provoke Ziyun. Chapter 973. Later on, when many people snatched the pills, they would ask, "Is this Ziyun's pill?" If it was, they might not dare to take it. They were afraid that it was a pill in the guise of a strange and harmful thing inside. "Thank you, Brother Ziyun. Let's do it." After the agreement, they chatted for a while before Tangguo left the group and went to sleep. Over the weekend, she had a pretty good time. On Sunday, Su Meihui did not go to work and even made soup for her. "Mom." When they were eating, Tangguo called Su Meihui. Su Meihui looked up and smiled. "What's wrong? Do you have any savings?" Su Meihui was a little surprised. "Why? Do you need money for something? Do you not have enough money to spend? I want to do something. Can you lend me some?" With Tangguo's current status, it was not easy for her to get money. If she had to work part-time once a week, she would only have the same amount of money as today. What she wanted to do in the future was not so simple. She only needed a start-up capital. It was not much, within 1 million. If she did not have 1 million, 500,000 or 300,000 would do. She had a lot of money in her hands. If Su Meihui supported her a little more, it should be enough. Su Meihui asked, "Xiaoguo, what do you want to do? How much do you want?" Tangguo calculated the money in her hands and said, "Mom, lend me 200,000. I'll return it to you in half a year. Don't worry. I won't do anything illegal, and I won't spend it recklessly." Su Meihui still had 200,000. She thought that her daughter had always been very smart and sensible. Moreover, based on the money her daughter had earned over the years, after deducting the money she spent, she should have saved 100,000 or 200,000. "Okay, I'll lend it to you, but you have to return it to me in half a year," Su Meihui said seriously. "Remember, you can't spend it recklessly. If you don't tell me now, I'll respect your secret." Tangguo smiled and nodded. "Don't worry, Mom. I promise I'll return it to you." She was using it as startup capital. The stocks she had her eyes on would definitely be profitable and would not lose money at all. Earning money from the stock market was the least likely way to be targeted. There were indeed many good things in the system space, but each one of them was precious and particularly eye-catching. At this moment, she didn't want to be noticed as it would bring her a lot of trouble. With Su Meihui's help, Tangguo threw hundreds of thousands of yuan into the stock market that day and didn't care about it anymore. She had seen it and knew that this stock would definitely rise. She planned to sell it in a month's time and buy another stock. The snowball would only get bigger and bigger. She was not allowed to do anything in this world. "Tongzi, from now on, no matter where you are, if anyone attacks me verbally or spreads rumors, record it down for me." Chapter 974. Under that beautiful dress, was she wearing that kind of revealing sexy clothes? There was only a series of words that one could not think of, and there was nothing that they could not say. They even glanced at Tangua's bag, wondering if there were condoms in it. Some even encouraged Tangua's deskmate to look through her bag. After that day, Suji hated Tangua even more. Seeing that Tangua didn't come back, some people stood outside the classroom and watched the door. Her heart was also restless. In the end, she started to look through Tangua's bag. Of course, there weren't any condoms in it. There were books, a small mirror, and a set of cosmetics. When they saw the cosmetics, the girls all looked at her with disdain. Even if there's no condom, this set of cosmetics is enough to prove that she's a mistress. Otherwise, how could a high school student put such things in here every day? This set of cosmetics costs at least a few thousand. Where did it come from? I don't believe that a parent would buy cosmetics for a high school student. Yeah, and we're all students. Who is she dressing up for? But boys will definitely like it. I found that there are many boys in our class who are secretly looking at her. The girls glanced at the boys in the class. Those boys didn't dare to say a word. They actually didn't hate Tangua as much as the other boys in the school. Tangua was serious in class and did her homework after class. Other than having a good face, she was a good student. Because of their long-term contact, they actually didn't think that Tangua was as bad as others said. But they didn't dare to stand up for her. If anyone spoke up for her now, those who didn't have a powerful family background would probably be drowned by gossip. They would even be involved with her. Even if they were boys, they were more concerned about their reputation. If they were labeled as bad students and their parents reported it, it wouldn't feel good. There were also some bad boys who looked at Tangua with teasing eyes. They vaguely had bad intentions. When Tangua came back, the things in her bag had already been put away. These people had no idea that all their actions in the classroom were being monitored by the system. The system had even recorded and saved these images clearly. Tangua opened her school bag and looked at the things that had been rummaged through. She lowered her eyes and faintly smiled. At noon, Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang came to see Tangua again. Let's treat you today. You treated us to barbecue last time, so we should return the favor, right? Zhuo Ran's smile was very bright. No matter how one looked at him, he was a handsome, cheerful, and gentle boy. Who would have thought that his bones were filled with all kinds of evil interests? All right. Tangua did not refuse this time. She agreed and followed them to the top floor of the canteen. On the top floor, one could order and cook on the spot. Rich second generations like Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang either went out to eat or ate here. They preferred to eat here because many interesting things would happen. Tangua followed them to the seats that had already been reserved and saw a few familiar faces. Song Zhouchen and Bai Fei, who seemed extremely weak and small beside him. A little further away, there was a boy who was doing exercises. She remembered this boy. He was a weirdo among the 4 rich second generations in the school. Wherever he went, he would take a math book with him. It was said that if he didn't do math for a day, he would feel uncomfortable. In serious cases, he would even have allergies and rashes. Even the experts couldn't diagnose what strange disease he had. Chapter 975. Chang Zhan seemed to feel that someone was looking at him. He raised his head subconsciously and saw a beautiful girl staring at him with a pair of expressive eyes. When he saw her, she didn't avoid him. Instead, she smiled at him. Chang Zhan frowned. He didn't understand why the girl would smile at him. Of course, he didn't care about that. What he needed to do now was to do math problems until the food was served. After the meal, he would go back to the classroom and do math problems until the afternoon class. After that, he would take the bus home. He would do math problems until dinner. After dinner, he would go to bed. Tangguo glanced at the math problems in front of Changzhan. She was sitting right opposite Changzhan. Changzhan felt the girl's gaze, but he didn't care. No one was more important than math problems. Bai Fei looked timid. She didn't dare to raise her head to look at the others. She talked to Song Zhouqin in a low voice. Song Zhouqin was very attentive. He would ask her what she wanted to eat. She usually said anything would be fine. She came from a poor family. She could eat anything. She wasn't picky. Song Zhouqin didn't make things difficult for her. When the dishes were served, he would pick a few of his favorite dishes and put them in front of her. He would ask her if she liked them. If she didn't like them, he would change to other dishes. Bai Fei didn't want to have anything to do with a rich second generation like Song Zhouqin. She was just an ordinary girl. She came from a poor family. Her appearance was only fair and pretty. Song Zhouqin was a popular figure in the school. He was handsome and liked by many people. Even she had to admit that she couldn't help but feel nervous when Song Zhouqin talked to her gently. She had been avoiding him. But recently, many people in the school were unfriendly to her. Many girls bullied her and framed her for stealing. Fortunately, she met Song Zhouqin at this time. He helped her prove her innocence and cleared up the misunderstanding. Otherwise, people in the school would say that she was a thief. Because she couldn't afford those things, no one would doubt that she was not a thief. Song Zhouqin helped her many times. If it weren't for him, she would have faced all kinds of terrible verbal attacks. For example, the beautiful girl sitting diagonally opposite her. In almost every corner, one could hear people saying that this was an indecent girl who had an old man's mistress and was going out to sell herself. She didn't think this girl was that kind of person. It was said that this girl named Tangguo had very good grades. She was in the top 5 of her grade in her exams. How could an indecent person do so well in his studies? If she was really kept as a mistress, wouldn't she be living a good life instead of studying hard? Everyone said that the other party was indecent and had been kept as a mistress. But after so long, there were no photos to prove it. Chapter 976. She wanted to do it and earn some money to support her family, but she didn't have the ability to do so. She was envious. When she thought about what had happened to Tangguo, her eyes were filled with sympathy. She was glad that she had met Song Zhouqin, who was a good person. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been any better than Tangguo. However, now that Tangguo knew Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang and was good friends with them, wouldn't she feel better with their help? Tangguo saw Bai Fei's expression clearly and felt that this girl was really naive. If Song Zhouqin was as bad as Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran, Tangguo wouldn't be the only one who would be ruined. When the dishes were served, she ate in silence. Changzhan, who was sitting opposite her, finally stopped working and started to eat his lunch. During this time, Tangguo would occasionally glance at him. The system noticed this and quietly asked, "Dear host, is there something wrong with Changzhan?" It watched the plot from beginning to end and said, "He's a math maniac. He doesn't pay attention to the outside world, so he doesn't have any grudges with dear host." "Oh yes, dear host, I heard that he feels uncomfortable if he doesn't do math for a day. Once, when his family didn't let him do math, he was allergic and got rashes all over his body. This person is really strange. I've never heard of such an illness. Maybe I'm just ignorant." Tangguo giggled and attracted the attention of everyone present. It had to be said that her bright smile was really attractive. Even Changzhan couldn't help but take a second look. However, he quickly recovered and continued to eat. Zhuo Ran came back to his senses and asked, "What are you laughing about? Did you think of something happy?" "Yes, tell us about it." Wei Liang also seemed to be very interested. He didn't realize that his attention to Tang Guo had already exceeded his own understanding. Bai Fei thought to herself, this face is really beautiful. She thought about those girls who were talking about her. She guessed that those people were jealous of Tang Guo's good looks and started to spread rumors, causing the rumors to spread. Song Zhouchen didn't have any reaction. He liked girls like Bai Fei. Tang Guo was pretty, but he wasn't interested. Seeing Bai Fei staring at Tang Guo in a daze, he waved his hand in front of Bai Fei's eyes and whispered, "Aren't you going to eat?" Bai Fei hurriedly lowered her head and ate silently. This girl was really pretty. She heard that she was called the school belle as soon as she entered the school. Maybe she was really jealous. Chang Zhan was the first to finish eating. He glanced at Tang Guo inadvertently and left with the math problem in his arms. When he walked out of the cafeteria, he subconsciously looked back because he felt that the pair of eyes were glued to his back. Sure enough, he turned around and saw that she was looking at him with a very direct gaze. Seeing that he was looking at her, she smiled at him again. Chang Zhan's expression was cold as he turned around and left. He was not interested in this strange girl at all. Could it be that his guess was wrong? Was this girl trying to seduce him? He quickly denied it. If she really wanted to seduce them, Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran would have satisfied her. It couldn't be for this reason. Great host, why do you keep looking at him? Your system suddenly reacted and exclaimed, is this that guy? Oh, right, I remember that there was a world where Great Host was a great mathematician. Oh, I finally understand. It's not that he's allergic when he doesn't do math problems. It's that he thinks of someone when he sees something. He's allergic because he can't see Great Host. Chapter 977. The rumors about Tang Guo in school were getting more and more intense. Even Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang had become her friends. In front of them, no one dared to talk about Tang Guo. As long as they turned around, all kinds of unpleasant words would be said. Apart from the fact that Tang Guo was a kept woman, they talked more about how she had hooked up with Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang at the same time. It was enough to prove that she was a bad girl. Every afternoon, Zhuo Ran, Wei Liang, Song Zhouchen, and Chang Zhan, the four rich second-generation heirs, would have lunch together. Because Tang Guo was familiar with them, they would come over to call Tang Guo when class was over. Because Song Zhouchen had helped her in time, Bai Fei trusted him very much. At first, she was shy and unfamiliar with him, but now she was somewhat familiar with him. A handsome boy like Song Zhouchen was gentle and attentive to Bai Fei. No girl could resist him. Bai Fei was the same. Although they hadn't officially confirmed their relationship, it could be seen that they were closer than others from the way they interacted with each other. Don't worry about other people's gossip. When you get into university, you can leave this place. Zhuo Ran comforted Tang Guo. Wei Liang added, yes, there are too many people and we can't stop them. But we all believe you. We didn't do those things. Besides, we stay together every day, so we know more than them. Yes, Tang Guo. Those people are jealous of you because you are good-looking and can make money. Bai Fei comforted her in a low voice. Among the three people, the first two comforted Tang Guo with other purposes, but only Bai Fei was sincere. During the time they spent together, she liked Tang Guo more and more. She even went to see Tang Guo working part-time in person. She was really capable. Song Zhouchen didn't like to talk. Since he was attracted to Bai Fei, he basically didn't get close to other girls. All his attention was on Bai Fei, so he was not in the mood to pretend to comfort Tang Guo. He only glanced at Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran, pinched Bai Fei's face, and said, the final exam is coming soon. Come back to the classroom with me to do the exam. Bai Fei hurriedly nodded and trotted behind Song Zhoujin. He seemed to dislike Bai Fei for walking too slowly. He stopped in his tracks and waited for her to catch up. Then, he grabbed her by the back of her collar and dragged her into the classroom. I'm also going back to the class to do the test questions. Tang Guo bid farewell to the remaining 3 people, and her gaze inadvertently swept over Changzhan. Faced with his expressionless and cold appearance, a hint of a smile appeared in her eyes. She turned and left. Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang didn't look away until Tang Guo's figure disappeared. They looked at each other and Wei Liang said in a low voice, "She's getting closer to us now." Yes, shouldn't we take action and take it a step further with her? Zhuo Ran narrowed his eyes. Now that she trusts us a lot, she shouldn't be so against us pursuing her again, right? Let's wait a little longer. After the exams, there's still a holiday. We can use the holiday to spend some time with each other before confessing. It'll be easier for her to let her guard down. Changzhan's attention was originally on the math problem in his hand. When he suddenly heard the 2 people's discussion, he frowned and looked up to stare at the 2 of them. Wei Liang was a little puzzled. Why are you looking at me? Yes, Changzhan. Don't tell me you want to join us too. Not interested. Changzhan replied indifferently. Seeing that he could not persuade the 2 of them, Changzhan did not say anything else. He remembered that he would see that girl's clean smile every afternoon, and he made a decision. After school in the afternoon, Tang Guo rode her bicycle home alone. She was surprised to see a boy with a math problem blocking her way on a street not far from her house. Chapter 979. Let's talk. It was Changzhan who spoke first. His tone was cold, as if there was no emotion at all. Even when facing Tang Guo, his pitch-black eyes were very calm. No matter how stunning the girl in front of him was, she couldn't move him. Tang Guo smiled. Sure, where do you want to talk? Changzhan's gaze swept around and finally landed on an ice cream shop. He said instinctively, let's go there. After saying that, he was stunned for a moment. He had never gone to an ice cream shop to talk to people, so he probably wouldn't choose such a sweet place. In particular, the customers entering and exiting the shop were all young men and women in pairs. But since he had already said it, it wasn't Changzhan's style to go back on his words and change his mind. In other words, although it was already 6:00, the sun was still a little bright and the weather was hot. Going to an ice cream shop might be a good choice. The 2 of them walked into the ice cream shop one after another. As a man, Changzhan naturally asked, "Do you want ice cream or ice water?" Tang Guo sat in her seat and supported her chin with one hand. The corners of her lips curled up. "I want ice cream." "What's that smell?" Changzhan's voice was still on the same level. The couple eating ice cream beside them couldn't help but glance at him. The girl even whispered to her boyfriend, "Is this guy chasing a girl?" His voice is so cold and his face is so stiff, as if someone owes him $5 million. Do you think you can get a girl with this kind of behavior? Changzhan frowned. He turned around and said, "We're classmates. I'm not chasing her." The girl's face stiffened. Her boyfriend still had some sense. Thinking that Changzhan wasn't someone to be trifled with, he quickly smiled and apologized. Changzhan's brows relaxed. "It's okay. I'm just telling you guys to avoid misunderstandings." Tang Guo looked at the other party's actions with interest. Then, Changzhan continued to ask, "What flavor do you want?" "I want all kinds of flavors. Give me a spoon of each. It's best if there's more. I like ice cream." Changzhan was stunned. His legs reacted faster than his brain and he immediately got up to order ice cream. After a while, he came back with a glass of ice water and a bowl of various flavors of ice cream in front of Tanguy. There's a lot of different flavors. A spoon of each is just enough to fill a bowl. Thank you. Tanguy took the bowl of ice cream and took a bite. She praised, "It's still so delicious." Changjian didn't understand why the girl in front of him was so happy to eat ice cream. From her expression, it could be seen that eating ice cream made her happy and blissful. "Right, Senior Changjian, what do you want to talk to me about?" Changjian's expression became serious again. He stared at Tanguy's face and said seriously, "Do you like Wei Liang?" "No." Tanguy quickly shook her head and asked in surprise, "Wei Liang and I are friends. How could I like him? Does Senior Changjian think that I have other intentions for approaching him?" "Of course not." Changjian felt relieved and asked, "What about Zhuo Ran?" "We're just good friends, and I only treat them as friends." A clean smile appeared on the girl's face. "The whole school is spreading rumors about me. I didn't expect that they would actually believe me. I think they can be friends. Before entering university, I won't fall in love at such a young age. I only have friendship for the two of them. After all, they are my only friends." Chapter 980. Changjian's expression was a little complicated. He almost blurted out, "Are you stupid? How could these two brats have good intentions? All of this was just a conspiracy. They wanted to see her reveal her true colors. They first asked people to spread rumors, then finally reached out to help her." But he restrained himself. When he heard that Tanguy didn't like the two of them, he felt that there was no need to continue this topic. "Remember what you said. Your status is very different. Getting involved with them won't have a good ending. Your grades are good. You should study hard and get into a good university in the future. Then you can think about your feelings." System, what a joke. Is this the possession of an old professor? I have the same thoughts as Senior Changjian. I'm working hard to improve my grades. That's good. Changjian pursed his lips. Seeing that Tanguy was eating ice cream, he blurted out, "Girls shouldn't eat too much ice cream." Tanguy looked up and smiled. She replied sweetly, "I know. Thank you for your concern." This voice made Changjian a little flustered. He quickly stood up, "I've already paid. You can go back after eating. I'll leave first. Senior, take care. Be careful when you go home," Tanguy hurriedly said. Her voice was still so pleasant to hear. Even though Changjian's back was facing her, he could imagine that beautiful face. The smile on her face must be as brilliant as a blooming flower. Changjian sat in the car. Thinking about how Tanguy said that she had no interest in Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang, he relaxed a lot. In this case, Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang wouldn't be able to hurt her. Although they were childhood friends, he didn't approve of their actions. If possible, he would do his best to prevent them from hurting innocent girls. In the past, he didn't care about the girls who had ulterior motives. This Tanguy, from his observation, was indeed a good girl. Time passed quickly. A semester passed. Tanguy welcomed her final exam amidst countless rumors. After the nervous final exam, there was anxiously waiting. When the report card was posted, the whole school was shocked. There was no other reason. Tanguy's results were beyond their expectations. Her original grades were indeed good, but she had always been in the top 5 or top 3 of her grade. She had never gotten first place in her grade. In this exam, she was the first in her grade, and her score was dozens of points higher than the second place. The score for second place was not low, but she only had 1 point deducted from her Chinese essay. She got full marks for the rest. This kind of result made everyone in the school feel complicated. The person who had been attacked by their words turned out to be a hidden top student. How could they feel good? Especially the people in Tangua's class. They rarely talked about her in front of Tangua. But as soon as Tangua left, they would whisper to each other again, and their words were even worse than before. The other people in the school felt the same way. Perhaps they all thought that Tangua's excellent grades and beautiful appearance were a slap to their faces. For such untouchable results, they only wanted to pull her down from her pedestal. They had to find some flaws in her to feel balanced in their hearts. It was like facing a rich man who was as rich as a country. First, they were envious, then jealous, and wondered why they weren't as rich as the other party. If this rich man's messy private life was exposed, the jealous people would laugh and talk about how the rich people's lives were really messy. Saying this would make them feel balanced and much more comfortable. Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran gave you a lot of money, right? You should be compensated. He probably didn't pay enough and threatened Zhuo Ran by jumping off a building. Wei Liang, come over and pay him more. That's too greedy. Perhaps it was because she usually behaved too normally and never showed her weak side to others. She always kept everything in her heart. She always believed that everything would pass. One day, she would welcome the warm sunshine and live a good life. Chapter 982. She didn't think that her mentality would collapse so quickly and that she wouldn't be able to bear it one day. No one thought that she really wanted to jump off the building. They all thought that she was just threatening Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran to ask for more money. During the holidays, Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran didn't give up following Tangua. When Tangua went to work part-time, they would buy water, snacks, and her favorite ice cream. They didn't get impatient at all. After it was over, Tangua would treat them to some snacks, hot pot, barbecue, and so on. The three of them got along quite well. When school was about to start, Zhuo Ran went to look for Tangua first. Xiaogua, we've known each other for so long. You should know me well, right? Tangua looked up and smiled. What do you want to say? Zhuo Ran leaned closer to her and said gently, the closer I get to you, the more attracted I am to you. Xiaogua, I'm sincerely pursuing you. I hope you can give me a chance. When Zhuo Ran said this, he couldn't help but feel nervous. In the past, when he approached girls and said such things to them, he was always teasing them. He had never been so nervous that his palms were sweating. He thought that it was because of the hot weather, not because he cared about whether Tangua agreed or not. He maintained a good-looking smile. When he expressed his feelings, almost all girls were attracted to his gentleness and sunshine. Xiaogua, you can think about it. I'll wait for your answer. I'm sorry, Zhuo Ran. Tangua shook her head almost without thinking. I've always treated you as a friend. I don't have any other thoughts. Whether it was the unfamiliar you or the familiar you now, I don't have any other thoughts. I'm very happy to know a good friend like you. Zhuo Ran's smile disappeared and his hands under the table clenched into fists. He really didn't expect that after trying for so many months, the answer he got was still so straightforward. She rejected him without hesitation. He stared at the beautiful girl in front of him and said again, Xiaogua, are you not willing to give me a chance? Can't you give it a try with me? I want to study seriously now. I won't consider personal relationships before university, and I really only treat you as my best friend. Therefore, I am very sorry. A look of helplessness flashed across Tangua's face. If you've been nice to me all this time because you like me, then let's meet less in the future. After being rejected again, Zhuo was a little angry. However, he had always been very concerned about his image. He buried his head for a long time before a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Forget it. I forced you too much. The two of them sat together in silence for a while before leaving. A few days later, Wei Liang held a large bouquet of roses and confessed to Tanguo, Xiaoguo, I still like you in my heart. After thinking about it, I'm willing to try again. I hope you can give me a chance. Wei Liang was the same as Zhuo. They were both filled with confidence. When he heard that Zhuo had failed, he mocked him in his heart for a long time. Finally, it was his turn. He did not expect himself to be so nervous. He didn't think that he was nervous because he cared about Tanguo. He was just afraid that if Tanguo rejected him, he would be laughed at by Zhuo. He was more prepared and was not as casual as Zhuo. He didn't bring anything. He asked her to a milk tea shop and confessed. Alright, Madam Host, what should I tell them after they contact me? Tell them to come here. I have a lawsuit for them to fight. As long as they win, I will give them whatever they want. The system knew that the host was serious. He followed Tanguo's instructions. Those top lawyers were very surprised by this email that had appeared out of nowhere. This was because this was their private email, and outsiders did not know about it. When they saw something that they were interested in, they would contact the system. After the system notified Tanguo, Tanguo sent them a document. After seeing this document, 30 out of the 50 lawyers were willing to take on this special case. Chapter 984. On the day before school started, Tanguo met with 30 of the world's top lawyers. These lawyers from all over the world looked at each other in surprise when they found out that they had been invited to the same villa. Because they were all very famous and were in the same industry, they more or less knew about each other. They greeted each other, and when they saw that the host had not arrived yet, they began to talk about their visit. After the exchange, they found out that their employer notified them via email, and it was even through their personal email. Although they did not reveal the conditions of their visit, they were all smart people and should have guessed that it must be something that could satisfy each other. That was why they had come so easily. When Tanguo appeared in front of them, everyone stood up in surprise. Many years later, when they recalled this magical meeting, they would still remember it. Welcome, everyone, and thank you very much for coming. When they came, they were prepared. Although Tanguo spoke in English, some of them who were not good at English still understood Tanguo's words through the translator. Even though they were very surprised, they were still willing to wait patiently because the person who invited them was just an Asian girl who looked like she was in her teens. They greeted Tanguo in their own language. It can be said that they have gotten to know each other. Since you are here, it means that you are willing to take on this case. What is written in the email is true. I want to sue those people. Tanguo sat on the sofa and said calmly, I invited you and did not hesitate to use something that you are interested in exchange for this case. My purpose is to win this case. You are all the top lawyers in the world. As the saying goes, if the strong work together, you will not let me down. The lawyers looked at each other and said, Of course, we are here because we are confident that we can win this case, one of the lawyers said excitedly. Also, I am not here just for the treasure that Miss Tang took out that I am very interested in. I believe that they are the same. None of us have taken on a case like this before. We're more interested and curious. Miss Tang's way of thinking is too mysterious. What you're doing is too courageous. Like you, we are here for the purpose of winning. As long as they could win, they would get far more than the treasure that Tanguo gave them. This would be the first and most magical case in the world. because there were too many defendants in this case. However, we need to do a lot of preparatory work, which will take a lot of time. Miss Tang, if you're not in a hurry, we can use a year to collect evidence and guarantee that the other party won't be able to refute it. No, I'm in a hurry, Tanguo said. You only have 1 month to prepare. The lawyers present looked at each other and whispered to each other. They all thought that it would be a little difficult. I invited all of you here because I have sufficient evidence. I have all the evidence that you want. Tanguo took out a thick stack of CDs and put them on the coffee table. I think there's nothing more convincing than what's inside. If you still can't win this lawsuit with these things in your hands, I think your reputation will be ruined. The lawyers weren't annoyed by this sentence. Instead, they stared at the thick stack of CDs with great interest. Chapter 985. Tanguo stood up and said, Dear lawyers, ladies and gentlemen, you only have 1 month to prepare. I'll leave the things here to you. I have a lot of these things. You can call me anytime to get them. I have to start school tomorrow, so I'll take my leave. Tanguo turned and walked out with a smile on her face. After she left, the 30 lawyers couldn't wait to look at the contents of the CD. They were very curious about what was inside. The next day, Tanguo started school. The people in school still hadn't forgotten about her and would still look at her strangely. They observed for 2 days and realized that Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang didn't ask Tanguo to eat on the top floor of the cafeteria in the afternoon. At first, they didn't suspect anything. They just thought that they were in their 3rd year of high school and were more nervous about their studies, so they didn't ask Tanguo to eat. But 2 weeks later, Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang didn't even greet Tanguo when they saw her. This made people suspect that their relationship had broken down. Especially when people whispered bad things about Tanguo in front of them, they didn't react at all. After countless probing, they finally came to the conclusion that Tanguo, Zhuo Ran, and Wei Liang were no longer together. They might have fallen out with each other. It was also possible that the 2 of them were no longer interested in Tanguo. Seeing that she didn't quarrel, most people thought that the 2 of them had given her enough compensation and that they had broken up peacefully. Without Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang's protection, more people talked about Tanguo. From being a prostitute to being kept by an old man, people were talking about how Tanguo had been kept by both Wei Liang and Zhuo Ran at the same time. Some people even revealed that Tanguo had been fooling around with the 2 of them during the holidays. They probably had enough fun during the holidays and felt that there was nothing new about it. Since they had already gotten their hands on her, they definitely wouldn't be interested anymore. After all, these 2 people had always been like this, so it wasn't strange at all. Because of their generosity, wealth, and status, almost no one would say anything bad about them. Moreover, they didn't force the girl. The girl was willing, so there was nothing wrong at all. When Zhuo Ran and Wei Liang heard this, they just laughed. In fact, they often observed Tanguo's figure from a corner. Seeing those people talking about her and scolding her to her face, she didn't feel good. But when they remembered Tanguo's cold rejection, they didn't want to bother at all. They were waiting for her to beg them. As long as she asked and said that she needed their protection, even if she didn't want to be their girlfriend, for the sake of their past relationship, they would still help her. However, they did not see it coming. It could be said that they had already become angry out of humiliation. One day, Tanguo finished school. She was still in the same small alley, and Chang Zhan blocked her way. Is something the matter, Senior Chang Zhan? Chang Zhan's expression was complicated. Are the rumors in school really not affecting you? No, are you concerned about me? Tanguo said with a smile. That bright smile really looked like a person who was fine. Chang Zhan wasn't sure if she could take it or not. I will persuade them to help you explain. Senior Changzhan, you are really a good person. In the busy third year of high school, you still care about other people's business. Changzhan didn't like this kind of praise and said, I just don't want to see my childhood friends do wrong. I will apologize to them for the harm they have caused you. Chapter 986. But, Senior, have you ever thought that once the damage has been done, there is no point in apologizing? Tanguo stopped smiling. They are the ones at fault, not you. There is no point in apologizing. Changzhan was speechless. He looked at Tanguo with a complicated expression and asked, do you want to transfer schools? If you leave here, I can help you choose a better high school in another city. With your current grades, I guarantee that you will be able to enter a good university. Tanguo laughed again. Then what am I doing? What do you mean? Tanguo looked down and the corners of her mouth twitched. I did nothing wrong, and I did not do those things in the rumors. Because of these rumors, everyone is attacking me, so I want to leave here. I want to go to a place where no one knows me. I did nothing wrong, so why am I the one who is running away and avoiding? One day, when they mention my name, they will still think of the girl who was once kept as a mistress and sold herself out. She was even kept as a mistress by two rich second-generation heirs at the same time. In the second semester of her second year of high school, she could not take it anymore and transferred schools. At class reunions, they will think of this and talk about it. They will ask each other if you know what happened to this girl named Tanguo. Maybe they will even say that she was kept as a mistress in high school. When she went to university, it must be the same. When she came out to work, she probably relied on the unspoken rules to get promoted. In any case, in their mouths, this girl named Tanguo will be filthy for the rest of her life and she will never be able to escape from such rumors. This is not the scariest part. The scariest part is that this girl named Tanguo will really get what you want. She will move to the school you wanted and start a new life. She will be admitted to university and will have a stable and high-paying job after graduation. But one day, the people from that school will recognize her and even work in her company. They will spread rumors that did not exist in the past. At this point, Tanguo looked up and said to Changzhan, Senior, do you think that the people in the company will believe the words of this girl named Tanguo's former schoolmate? What do you think her colleagues will think of her? As long as such rumors don't disappear and don't prove my innocence, I'll never be able to do anything. For the rest of my life, no matter where I go, as long as someone recognizes me and continues to spread rumors, I will never be at peace. The scariest thing is that no one will believe me. They all think that there's no smoke without fire. If there's nothing wrong with me, why would there be such rumors? The person who spread the rumor is my schoolmate. They won't think that my schoolmate is lying. It's fine if it's just one schoolmate, but Senior, I have countless schoolmates in this school.